I come from an engineering background. I've
Mhm.
done computer science, but as a typical thing, you do engineering and then figure out what to do. The first launch would be like very nervous. Like, you don't know how people would react to your product, all that stuff. But I think after launching AdSets, it gave me a little understanding how things work and all that stuff. Because even AdSet has like one product of the day on ProductHunt. But even I didn't expect all that. I thought I was building it for my own sake and personal reason. But later on, when I shipped it, I figured out there are a lot of folks who would need these kind of products and people would find these helpful. The way that I see building side projects, at least so far, is building side projects is a very good way to build your own audience. I think I leverage that with the side project that I've built so far. Now it's time for me to figure out a bigger one or something. Never build anything in solo because it's like a very lonely job. At some point, you would need a bunch of folks, at least similar-minded folks. Within every time that just come up, when you come up with an idea, there should be some set of people who would be interested in taking that up, building together, all that.
Hey Akhil, welcome to Thousand Faces Club. This is a format of the event where we bring in creators, we bring in people who work around the creator economy. We try and understand their journeys. We try and understand everything that's around happening in the lives of creators. Creator life is something that sounds very glamorous outside, but I'm sure like there are a lot of thorns inside of how they make content or how they make money here. So the idea is to can we structurally deconstruct and see what does it mean to be a creator? What does it mean to make money off like creating content? Right. Today is the first time we are going to be talking about something which is not traditional, like a YouTube or Instagram or like a Substack writing. We're talking about something that's been in the radar in the last few months or even the last couple of years, which is around what it's quote unquote called the side project. Now, we do know that a lot of designers used to work on side projects, but it was usually a conceptual idea that they would take and that they would design it for themselves, mostly to showcase it in their portfolio. But now we've started to see trends, especially with the introduction of no-code tools and the learning curve that is reduced to actually build actual products, not just prototypes, has made us the ability to even earn money out of the projects that we've been built, deconstruct much more deeper into these sort of ideas and concepts. But before we get into it, would you like us to give an introduction of yourself, who you are,
Sure.
where did you study, and all of it?
Surely. So first of all, like thanks a lot for inviting to this talk show, and I'll just give a quick brief about myself, where I'm coming from, what I do. So I'm based out of Andhra, and I've done my graduation in SRM Chennai. And since then I've been working as a product designer. I've been in the space for like last 1.5 years. I've joined little early. I used to work at an edutech company in Bangalore, and then COVID happened and side projects, all that. I've moved back to Andhra, and then like from last couple of months, I've been into Web3 space. I've been exploring the space for a year, and right now I've moved full time into this space. Currently, I'm working as a product designer at a Web3 product studio called Drumworks.
Awesome.
That's a very quick brief about me. But besides design, I spend most of my time exploring NFTs, side projects.
Actually, what was your education like?
So I come from an engineering background. I've done computer science, but as a typical thing, you do engineering and then figure out what to do and like, right. So I've done my engineering first. While doing engineering, I thought I'll do something crazy in tech stuff and all. But then later on, I figured out my interest was in design since beginning, right? Since college, I always used to start making these posters for events. College, we used to have some media clubs and stuff where I used to actively learn Photoshop, do these graphic posters and all that. By end of fourth year, I made a small portfolio where then I figured out that tech is not for me. I can't code for shit. And then I had to, go out, apply for design jobs and slowly get into design.
So there is engineering, there is design, and then there is Web3, there is NFT. So we've already covered like a lot of areas that you're all working on. Let's put it in this way. Let's say if a stranger comes and asks you what do you do, how do you usually introduce yourself? How do you identify?
No, that's a very tricky place to be in, right? But I usually just maybe as a person, I come from a very creative background. I used to feel like I can do a lot of things. Most of the time I spend figuring out how products work, spending time with art whenever I get time. So maybe I'll try to introduce myself in a creative way. I come from a like creative background and slowly get into design while figuring out engineering and all that stuff.
Nice, nice. So when you just graduated out of your engineering college, you already realized that you wanted to take up design as a career. What was your first step? What did you try doing it? Because design is such an open sea that,
Correct.
there are a lot of directions that you could take. Did you immediately start applying for jobs, or did you do something else to equip
As
yourself
in,
before applying
got
for
it.
jobs?
Learning design or
Getting a job in design.
so that's a like very interesting story. While I was in fourth year, I was like but I was not really sure about that I want to pursue design full time or not, because Indian parents, it's very hard to convince parents saying
Yeah.
that I want to work in design. There is graphic design, UI UX, right? Like just like every typical parent, even my parents wanted me to get into software side like TCS, Infosys, all that, whatever, right? At least they want me to get into tech side. But I know for a fact that I can't really code anything. And but at final year, all of my friends were getting jobs in most of the companies. They was selecting, but I was going through aptitude and then technical. I was like doing okay, and then coming back, right. At one day, I've just for try, I've attended one of the marketing role. Right, there is
Mhm,
this. I used to work in a company called MyCaptain. It's a
mhm.
edutech company in Bangalore.
Right.
So my captain came for a hiring round. I went for an interview. I cracked every round, like basically group discussion, all that. But then I wanted to get into marketing role, like basically operations and sales. Just for the sake of showing that I got a job. Now let me live in peace, right? So then I gave my interview, and that person who then later on was the founder and my head where I used to work in. So I had a conversation. He figured out that I was not a person for marketing and sales,
Mhm.
and I prepared my resume enough for the fact that most of the things were in like based out of that job specific. But somewhere in hobbies, I've mentioned that I'm interested in design, graphic design, all that. He picked that point and asked me, "Why did you write design here? What's your background?" Then I happened to show him all my portfolio that I've done so far throughout the three years of my engineering. And he really, and he was like, what if I give you a chance as a graphic designer, my captain, would you be able to come and give an interview? And then I went Bangalore, I gave an interview, and then one day I've cracked it and I got the job. Right? Like I
Nice.
went to a marketing interview and came back with a design.
This was in early 2020.
It
Is
was
like before we
2020,
started.
correct?
Right. So before we started this conversation, you also said that you were a part of two cohort-based courses. One is a 10K
Correct.
designers and another is built by TSL. Now that you already have a job, what nudged you to go further and upskill yourself? What was the thought going behind your mind?
Correct. So from college, right? From first year of college, I was always doing freelancing on site, where
Mhm.
I used to take small gigs in college or maybe figure out clients and stuff. But at some point, I realized that freelancing is little exhausting. You'll have to put in a lot of time. You'll have to sit and finish the entire task and then get paid. So I wanted to do something like, let me make micro SaaS or a mini product where I just put it out and get money out of it, where I don't have to put a lot of efforts on a day-to-day basis or regular basis. That intrigued me to explore what are micro SaaS, what are these sites, what exactly is getting the money out of something, some product kind of a thing. That intrigued me to build something on my own. But I was being coming from a design background, you often feel like if you have to build something, you need a tech support, you need a developer help.
Yeah.
So often designers think that the word build means coding something, or it's a tech stack involved.
Right.
But then I had to, while doing all that, I had, came across build by SkipTheLine, right? And then that the way they structured the entire cohort made sense to me, that it's completely no code, anyone can build things and stuff. And I had to
Right.
apply it and got into it.
Right, right. It's very interesting that you said that you were thinking about microsats, right? Because
Correct.
pretty much all of us, including me, Rajesh, we've all gone through that freelance journey. It sounds very lucrative in the first go, where people are voluntarily coming to you, giving you money and asking you to, hey, can
Correct.
you work? Then you realize what kind of nightmare it is. You spend a lot more time on coordination than actually sort
Exactly.
of
Lot
designing.
of things. Yeah.
Right. So most of the time, the first instance is that, hey, this doesn't work for me. I go to a full-time job. But the fact that you've thought about a micro SaaS, where is that
Correct.
thinking coming from? Did you see examples about other people building it? Or did you see some examples on internet or US? Can you take us through some of that?
Right. So this is still, I think maybe last couple of months, right? Like mostly some 6 months back, right? Till that point, even I was not aware of how you can make money out of these micro stats and all. But then at that point, I had happened to, start being little active on Twitter. And then I came across all these creators who build these Notion templates, making money out of it, who, provide kind of some value to other folks and get paid for that. That intrigued me to build my first side project. Like even before getting into build, I was already working on a very small side project where I was still figuring out how do I build this. I have an idea, how do I go about it, all that stuff. So while I was working at MyCaptain, like I used to create ad creatives for the digital marketing team, right? Like when I used to work as a graphic designer. So at that point, I faced a personal issue where if I had to go, if I had to see any inspirations of ad creative, I usually go to this tool called Facebook ad libraries.
Okay.
Right. Facebook. If you go to Facebook ad library and type any company name, you can see all the company ads that are running right now. Right. So let's say if I had to create an ad for edutech company, for example, I'll have to first know what all companies are there in the space. Let's say Unacademy, Vedantu, Byju's. Then I'll have to go and search the companies and then figure out, right? So for my own sake, I wanted a web page where I categorize all these companies into education, fintech, or food tech, all the categories. Put these companies inside that bucket and collect all the very good ad creative inspirations, so that I can click edutech and then see all the inspirations at this one go. So
right.
I wanted to build that.
How did it go? Did you work on it?
So I started with a simple Notion document. I don't know what is no code at that point. I'm still figuring out how to go about it. And I thought, why not just create a Notion template where I create tables for each company. I used to do manually go and pick all ads of all the companies, all details, and created a very simple thing with 4 companies in each sector, and started reaching out to all these marketing folks. I started going to all these head of marketing folks and maybe marketers in my own company, other previous company, and started asking them, what do you think about this idea? Would you find it useful? Would it help people to take very quick decisions? How do you go about designing an ad? Like how do you think about ad copy?
Did you launch it?
I think I launched it after joining Build.
Right.
That Notion document has become a proper landing page with a no-code tool and stuff. But that was the very first site project I launched.
Right.
It's called Sits. I've made it using a tool, no-code tool.
Got it. I want to dive deep into the cohort-based course called Build by TSL. For most people here, they might not be aware of what is Build. Can you take them through what is that course like, and what was your thought process while joining the course?
For sure. So Build by SkipTheLine is, I joined Build for the first cohort. Even I was not sure what would happen. But basically, when I was working on this project ad sets while I was creating Notion page and all, then I happened to see Build landing page. And then I saw the first copy that says build and launch a side project in 4 weeks. Right. And that was the same thing that I was trying to do. And then that copy intrigued me and then joined. But how Build works is Build in 4 weeks, they'll take you from 0 to 1, where first week they'll help you figure out how to think about ideas, like how do you generate ideas, or how do you go about getting an idea, like what to build, right? And then once you get an idea, they'll help you validate that. Is that idea worth it? Does this idea make sense? Or if it's just fun project, go for it, that type. And then third week, they'll help you figure out how, okay, you have an idea, and then you properly validated it, you scaled it down to a mini small side project. Then how do you think about building it? Do you need no code? Do you need code? Right? Is it just a Notion template? All that stuff. They'll help you figure that out. And for the entire third week, you will get to build that entire idea. And fourth week, you'll get to launch it. As in launching, as in making it live, bringing users, marketing it here and there. All that. So that's just stuff.
When you entered the cohort-based course, when you entered Build, was your agenda to take your ad library as a project to build? What was your thought process?
So I joined with the mindset, that I want to build this particular side project where I have an idea in mind, but how do I go about building it and shipping it? Right? Can you make me help? Can you help me building this product and making it live? But then after joining, I figured out that it's not that easy process, right? You'll have to scrape a lot of data, all that stuff. But it took me a lot of time to figure that out. But meanwhile, I collaborated with one more person, and then LetterHunt happened, right? So I built LetterHunt first, and then AdSets was.
Before we get into the LetterHunt as a product, I want to dive deep into the surprise element that you talked about. What I thought was easy was not easy anymore. Can you double click on that and explain what was the change in the perception that happened?
So, I mean, in terms of idea, I'm saying, right? Initially, I thought getting these all ad creative, all the data points that I want to put it on the website, I thought it's easier to just go and pick manually everything. But then I figured out it's not that. There's a lot of things involved where if you need to give value to someone, 10 to 5 ad creators won't work, right? You need a huge amount of ad sets, like maybe some 100 creators or 200 creators. At least, like in every sector, you would need at least some 10 to 20 creators in order you to figure out a good inspiration out of it. But manually, it's very exhausting task to do, right? Initially, I was doing it manually. I've literally went ahead and copied every data point manually for 100 creators. And then I showed it to everyone. They said it doesn't make sense. For 100 is very less. 100 in total, but in everything it was just 5 or 3 or something like that.
Right.
So then it took me time on how to figure out how do I scrape it with no code tools? How do I go and scrape 500 ad creatives? How do I do that? So that took me a little time.
So at this point,
No, I've redone it like multiple second time. So I've scraped the entire manual data. I've done it from the beginning again. Once I figured out how to scrape things and others. No, inside build only.
Okay.
During that cohort. The community will stay, like it will stay for like forever. You can launch any time at that point, right? But learning here was key that first you decide how the entire process would look like, how you figure out how to do each and every point, and then go on to build.
Right.
I've just directly went on to the step where I just went ahead, build everything. Later figured out.
How did LetterHunt happen? Can you also explain to folks here as what is LetterHunt?
Sure. So LetterHunt is one of my second project where LetterHunt is basically it's again a curated project, right? Where LetterHunt is a collection of 10,000 active newsletters spread across a lot of categories like crypto, education, finance, all that. Across a lot of categories with on overall 10,000 active newsletters. So I partnered with one more person inside Build, right? Like very good thing about Build is that you will have a lot of folks with similar mind, where everyone wants to build something with similar mind. Everyone thinks about ideas, right? And they want to build something. Yeah, this is the link.
Yeah.
Right. So LetterHunt happened. It was like none of our ideas. So there is this mentor, Abash. He works at Springworks, right? Yeah. So he posted this idea as a B2B marketer. He used to face this problem on, as a marketer, every person on day-to-day basis look for different distribution channels, right? How do I promote my product in a new area or whatever? So he posted this idea and said, take this, run away and go and build. So I met my other maker who is Madan. He currently works at Paytm. So he was interested in building it. He was looking for a collaborator, and I was interested. At that point, I was still figuring out how to build ad sets. I was still, figuring out how do I go about. And that point, I realized that maybe collaborating with other person, maybe a senior person who is little experienced, might help me understand how this field works, or I get to learn something from him. So I thought I'm also interested, and then we got on a call. We built it together.
Awesome. Just to put that timeline in perspective, right? All of this, you're doing it full time, or was there a full time job and you doing it in the side?
Yeah, that I missed. So when I joined Build, I was like doing a full time. I applied for 2 cohorts and doing one freelance gig. But then later from 1 week I figured out that it's a really exhausting thing to not take it up. But I quit my job at that point. I wanted to, take a small break, figure out, explore more things like building side projects or exploring Web3. Just a small break and figure out all these new things, just to see where my next interest or next job. So I was building all these side projects when I was, doing no work without any job.
So
Yeah.
that kind of becomes like your main project then.
Correct. So I happened to build more projects during that time.
Nice, interesting.
Yeah.
So let's coming back to the LetterHunt. So you collaborated with another person. So you collaborated with a fellow maker. How did it go about? What was like your role versus their role? Because once you have an idea, and the idea can take like 100 different ways, right?
Correct.
How did you guys figure out that this is how you're going to go about it?
Correct. So even I wanted to collaborate because I know for a fact that building something is very lonely job. Like you should never do that in solo. Like it's better to have a partner where you can, discuss few things, ideate together, maybe split the entire work into two parts. So that day when we both were interested, we got on a call saying, and then we thought we'll build this. Let's figure out how do we distribute our work. So his primary was to figure out tech. He comes from a tech background. I come from a design. I said I will handle no code design, all this distribution, marketing, everything. He said I'll handle the entire tech side of it. Let me figure out the entire database. You go ahead and build the landing page all that. So we were clear on how to build it. We scaled down the entire idea to a small project, from a huge idea to this thing. And we distributed our work, and then we
got it. So now initial idea was to build like a database of the newsletters, right? Now in this, can you break it down as what would be the front end design tasks and what would be like the tech tasks?
For sure. So basically, for this large of a curated project, right? It's literally 10,000 newsletters. So from a tech point of view, his task was to scrape entire Substack. So we picked this entire database from Substack. So Substack doesn't really allow you to, look at a lot of newsletters that are already there. But we figured out a loophole where we got the entire database from it. So his task was to figure out how to scrape it, how to, look for APIs and all that stuff. But from a non-tech person, from a design perspective, my job is to figure out how do I use this database, make a landing page for it. Let's say landing page I'm using this no-code tool called Software, where Software helps you build a landing page on top of Airtable. Is basically a database tool. So we scraped the entire database, put it in Airtable, and we connected Software and Airtable, made a landing page out of it. And we want, like, from day one, we made sure that we wanted to keep this as a paid product because it involved a lot of time, efforts, and right. So first, our idea was to get our build course fees back, but then we didn't expect that it would do really well. We didn't realize that it would add a lot of value. We know that it's a value adding thing for marketers, but we didn't expect that much of.
I'll come to the revenue part. So for example, when you decided that this is the design front end you're going to take care, so software connects to Airtable. Airtable is Google Sheets or Excel plus sort of a thing, but your software is just the front end, correct? But the actual database, right? So when an individual comes, they browse like a preview of it in the software, and then they pay for it, and then they get the access to the entire Airtable. Is that right?
Correct, exactly.
How did you pick these combinations? You could have gone with completely software, where everything is in software, and you could have added like a login, and you could have authenticated people and done that, because that would have made more correct, like a size product. Once they get access to the Airtable, then it becomes easier. Anyone can share it. Yeah. Can you take us through the decision-making process of how this composition came to?
For sure. We picked software and Airtable because it was like much easier. But later on, we figured out that with software, you can do all this login and SaaS thing. But one roadblock was there, that software allows you to only integrate Stripe, where to receive money via Stripe, you need a business account, right? At that point, we didn't have a business account with both of us. So we integrated this thing with Gumroad. So we had PayPal, and that was the easiest MVP that we figured out. So you come to LetterHunt, you will see some kind of sample newsletters where you can go and search few things. Any search that you do, you'll get to see only.
Is it okay then that you could share the screen so that that would be more interesting for people?
I can, yeah.
So this is the front end page that is built in software.
Correct. This entire side project, like this entire thing was built on software, the whatever the front end part. So and the database, the whatever the data that you see here was linked via Airtable, right?
Got it.
So basic idea was to provide a bit of value for all the users, basically whoever visits the site, as in free users who don't want to pay anything for that.
Right.
So any search that you do here, right? Let's say crypto. So any search that you do, you will get to see 40 newsletters by default. That's the restriction that we have put in, right? If you want to go beyond that 40, you go by our database. That was our idea. You get to see 40. If you want to do bit of campaigns around this database, where marketers usually use this entire database, put it in a campaign, and then do all these, right? So if you want to explore that, you go and buy our database, and that was our idea. So we simply created two versions of databases. We have added one free thing where we added 500 newsletters on, like we created one more Airtable. Initially it was 500, but then later on we understood a lot of folks are downloading only this and not the actual paid one. So we pivoted our idea from giving out 500 instead of just added 100, right? And then we saw a change in people buying a paid. With free newsletter, we take email address and give them this thing, free access of 500. If I were to change this, but our point is to get emails out of this one, and then maybe send them back after a month to the actual paid one. And there is a paid product which is $99 that will involve all these and all the 10,000 newsletters.
Got it.
And we simply linked it with Gumroad. So if you click that, it will take you to a Gumroad landing page where you pay the money and download the entire product.
Oh,
that was our like MVP flow.
So you completely bypassed Stripe because it required this
business account.
So this is essentially almost like a marketing page for your Gumroad sort of product.
Exactly.
Brilliant. So if
and
you
then
go
for
to
credibility, we put out tweets, all that.
Right. No, so if you go to the top, the software, can you tell us like a little bit of the decisions of each of these cards? How did you arrive at the information as this is the most appropriate information? Like, how do you know what is the engagement? Like, how did you come across this parameter?
Correct. So this exactly helped me by collaborating with the growth person. So the other person that I've collaborated, right? He comes from a marketing and growth background. So he leads a growth at Paytm, and he used to work at Oyo and stuff. So he helped me understand how actual marketers or B2B folks think about while taking all these decisions. And even I think mentor Abash also helped us think through entire all this. Even before this is the final output that you see, right? Like our first 1-2 iterations was a disaster. Like we went ahead and showed it to Prashant, all these marketing folks. They have literally said that this won't work. You're showing me a lot of things that I would never ever use in my entire life. So we took a lot of feedback from marketers, and then we scaled it down to all these data points that help them. Right?
Interesting.
And based on that, we understood what are the things that they would need. Basically, the newsletter name, a small description about the newsletter. Is it the engagement high? How many posts he has done? If it is high engagement, I would approach for a promotion, right? I would want to plug my business in his newsletter or in that person. And we also made it very easy to reach out. You see his email and DM.
Right.
So let's say you are interested in this Tom person, right? You simply click on this email button, and it will directly take you to your Gmail with a template. Template you got featured in LetterHunt looking for partnership. Would you be interested? Brilliant. You just have to change this and then do that. Even with Twitter, if you just click on Twitter, it'll open up his DM with a you see dummy message.
Right.
As in
right.
Proposal.
Right.
So we wanted to.
How did you come up with this idea of we should integrate messaging, we should have a template sort of thing?
So initially we were like thinking about adding the email ID, as in just put out the author's email ID upfront, saying Akhil BVS, etc. But then I was just like randomly exploring and stuff. I've found a code snippet where you click a button, it will take you to that direct Gmail and stuff. And then it was just ideation, all that random ideas that it was not planned decision.
No, it is very well thought through. I wonder if some of the companies where I've worked, which is like serious companies, I don't think they think about the user experience at a such deeper level. And it definitely doesn't look like a side project. It definitely looks like a very serious project and a one that is very well thought through. Great stuff there.
Awesome.
And I want to come to the part of charging LetterHunt. You talked about saying that from the very earlier build that you had this idea of keeping it paid. Can you talk about that a little bit? When did the idea occur of keeping it paid? What was the apprehensions of saying keeping it paid?
No, like I think the reason that we wanted to be this a paid product because AdSets was I built it for fun, right? Just to figure out the gist of how building the actual building muscle would work, or how to go about building public, how do you build, just ship one fun side project. Second side project, we decided that this time it should be a paid one. Let's see how it works. We went ahead and put a payment gateway to it, and we wanted to just give a try. It was just a random experiment. We were happy even if it fails and all that stuff. But we went ahead, put a payment number for it, but it worked.
Right.
But we wanted it to be a paid thing because we wanted to charge. Like we want to get paid for all the efforts that we have put in. Right. We curated a lot because you'll anyway find all these information outside, but the value that we are offering is the curation part of it.
How did you come up with the pricing? What should be the ideal pricing? And how did you come up with the tires? Right now, you kept it very simple, either free or you pay.
Free, correct.
Right. How did you come up with the pricing and the tires?
Pricing with 99, if you ask me, it was just like a random thing, but we did come. There are few other similar products as well where people are offering similar newsletters, curation, some similar products. We just compared all the products and we picked a average value of $100, which is 99.
Right.
Very not very hard thought through thing, but it just worked.
Right. So there is one other apprehension that usually people have is that, hey, you know what, I'm building from India. In India, usually people don't really pay. So if I have to build for the US audience or the international audience, how am I going to reach out? Now, the fact that you put it out in dollars, I somewhere assume that you already knew this is going to be an international product, right? It's not going to be something that's being in India. What was the thought process behind it? Did you have any apprehensions around saying that, hey, how am I going to market it? Who's going to buy it?
For sure. So we are intentionally done this because at build, right, while launching a product, the entire community would come and support you. You might have seen a couple of launches coming out of build on Twitter where people will just rally on whoever launches and then support, give users that push. And all of the folks in community, we use two things are main distribution channels. One is ProductHunt and other one is Twitter. Right? If you ignore Twitter for a second, most of the people that you see on ProductHunt are global audience. You would rarely find from India, there would be like very minimum folks, right? But large percent of audience are global, where people would come and can easily pay you on dollars and all, where you don't have to worry about that price.
Right. So ProductHunt was one of like the hope to take this product marketed.
Exactly. We haven't done any kind of marketing after launching.
So yeah, even for 1,000 Faces, me and Rajesh, we put together a plan to launch it in ProductHunt. And we understand what is like the stress levels, it's high while launching in ProductHunt. Can you tell us the behind the scenes of your pre-ProductHunt launch? What were you thinking? What are the things that you took care of?
Correct. So always the first launch would be like very nervous. You don't know how people would react to your product, all that stuff. But I think after launching AdSets, it gave me a little understanding how things work and all that stuff. Because even AdSet has like one product of the day on ProductHunt. But even I didn't expect all that. I thought I was building it for my own sake and personal reason. But later on, when I shipped it, I figured out there are a lot of folks who would need these kind of products and people would find these helpful. So that helped me understanding how do I plan this in a better way for the second product. Right? As you keep launching stuff, you'll figure out a better planning, better structure.
When you just launched the LetterHunt product, what was it like? When did you When did you start realizing that, hey, this is going beyond what I thought? What was the moment? What was the signals?
So I think first few days it was like okay, like we first day we got like some four sales already. We're like very minute sales. So even before there is a free thing, we kept it as some $10 and then $99. For $10, we have seen we received 4-5 sales that happened, and we figured okay, people are buying it. There is value inside it, right? And then after few days, like some for after a week, there was one person who did a very big newsletter campaign or some random thing. We don't even know who is that person. So he included LetterHunt inside that huge campaign. And suddenly at like midnight, we received like tons of emails saying what. So it was just a very random thing.
Right.
And it was purely organic. All this community support, Twitter, ProductHunt gave us initial boost. But then after a few days, it was purely organic for some.
How did it feel like when the first purchase was made?
It was like really it was really good feeling to have for sure, like earning money out of nowhere in internet, right? So it's a very good feeling.
Was this the first time you're earning some money out of building a product on the
Correct.
internet?
Out of product first time for sure. I was doing freelance like throughout my entire college life, but I've never really earned money out of a product.
Right. Now, when you look back, I want to understand, let's say, is it okay if we talk a little bit about like the total sales and stuff like
Sure,
that? Now,
sure.
can you take us through what was like the total lifetime sort of sales?
Got it. Happy to share as well. Give me a second.
Sure.
I think total sales was around some uh, around $4,500 or something. Let me share my screen. Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, can you see this screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So there were like some 693 sales, but out of which the paid ones are very less. The larger chunk are the normal free ones, right? 100, 500 sales. So most of the sales, like total, we have generated around 4,800 from Gumroad. But what we realized is while throughout the first 1 month, we had like a lot of traffic on our website, a lot of people visiting our site, clicking all these things. So then we immediately, a lot of folks have reached out to us. Can you help us feature our newsletter on your website? We'll pay you for that. So we figured out that people are interested in promoting their newsletters on our website. So why don't we go ahead and create a get featured thing like this? Can you see this?
Yes, yes.
Right. So we put up a form asking people to fill this, and then we put a paywall for that again. 1 week you pay this if you want 1 month. So for this we did some like for sure not a lot of folks didn't pay for this, but we did convert few folks who have paid us like $100, $200, all that. So apart from the main product, we also on the go figured out one more revenue source. Through that, we made some $500.
Nice, nice. Can you also take us through where was the maximum sale? What was like the source of traffic of the sales?
Yeah, if you see sales, you can see this. Like mostly it is like direct messaging, right? So I think a lot of folks have visited our website via Twitter and ProductHunt. I think it's most of the sales came from ProductHunt itself. ProductHunt really helped us, getting all this amount that you see.
Right. Interesting. Is there something else with respect to the monetary aspect that you would like to share?
Correct. I think video mein like I remember mentioning the 10,000 aspect of it, right? So there was one more product that I have built, which is BuyMeACryptoCoffee. Right. So even this idea, so basically BuyMeACrypto, you'll have a creator page like this where people can come and support you on using crypto. People can pay you using Ethereum, Matic, all that. So this idea, this was a very personal idea. So while building ad sets, right, the first project, I wanted, even though it is a free product, I wanted to figure out a way people can come and support me, with some kind of, perk or whatever. So for that, I've added right now it's not there, but I've added a buy me a coffee widget, right, on the website. If you love what I'm doing, go and support me types. So at that point, I was already very active in crypto space. And then my first thought was, how do I receive crypto in the same way, in a widget format or whatever, where I can put it on my site. People can come and, tip me or, gift me in terms of crypto and not really the INR, fiat or dollars.
Right.
So that idea intrigued me to think about this particular idea of creating BuyMeACryptoCoffee. So the very first thing that I've done is I went ahead, I post this idea on build community, and a few folks that are interested, like a few folks from inside community, they reached out saying, okay, let's build. This was our very first step on entering the crypto space in terms of building products. So
Nice.
till that point, we were still investing in NFTs, buying crypto, all that, but we never really built something in this space. So we wanted to enter this space through building. So
right.
one more upside of building side projects, right? Side projects are a very interesting way to connect with a lot of folks. You get to network with a lot of founders, other builders, and all these folks through building something. Instead of cold DMing them, why don't you build something and just reach out to them saying, I've built this. So that this product helped us connect with a lot of folks in the crypto space, where we moved on to building bigger things slowly. Through this, we earned some 10,000 USD as a grant. So we applied for Polygon grant, where so we support Ethereum and Polygon, right? So we reached out to Polygon asking for a grant, and they gave us some 6,000 USD. And we also participated in a hackathon called Biddle, which was like same Polygon, where we won a hackathon where we also got some USD voucher.
Interesting. So what is like the future looking like, right? Both for BuyMeACryptoCoffee and LetterHunt. Because I remember in LetterHunt, you spoke about that, how you collected email IDs for the free version. So usually it's an option for the builders to engage with the audience further. What does that mean for you? Are you planning to build more? Are you like planning to evolve some of these existing projects?
So the main thing about side projects, right? Unless you put in constant efforts, like even though you think that it's a passive thing, but to sustain, you will have to put in like little bit of once in a while. Otherwise, things won't last for a long time. Same thing happened with AdSets. I've never really actually worked on that particular project after I moved on to LetterHunt, CryptoCoffee, and whatsoever. So that project is there. That's all. It's not constantly moving, or neither I'm actively working on it. Right? And with LetterHunt, we are still passively talking about it, but not actively working on it. Even the other maker has a full-time job. I have a full-time job. So we don't really get time to actually build on this. But the way I see building side projects, at least so far, is building side projects is a very good way to build your own audience. I think I leverage that with the side projects that I have built so far. Now it's time for me to figure out a bigger one or something. That's the
interesting. So we have 10 more minutes. Should we take some questions? We already have a couple of them. So let me start with the first questions. And also, folks, if you have any sort of questions for Akhil regarding the side project or LetterHunt, any of these, please post in the chat and we'll pick them up and we will discuss them. So we already have the first question. How do we find relevant ideas to build side projects? What's your thoughts on it?
Got it. So ideas, right? So this is how I think about building ideas, like getting ideas in general. So if you just see what I've said before, while I explained CryptoCoffee, the idea of the CryptoCoffee came from having the widget on the ad set. So it just got from another project where it was my personal pain point. Even the reason that I built my very first site project ad set was a personal pain point, that I am facing this issue. Why not I go about it and solve this for my own self, and then figure out a better way to frame it for larger set of audience. So I would suggest solve something very small, or maybe a personal pain point in your daily workflow, or on a day-to-day basis, whatever you feel that is a problem. Right. And it could be solved in any way, right? Be it a landing page, newsletter, Notion page, or anything can be a side project.
Right. Almost pick something as small or like an MVP and build it.
Correct. Pick something small.
Awesome. So we have another question, which is something that I also had in my mind. How do you manage your time working on side projects along with full-time job? What's the secret?
Correct. There is no secret. It's hard for sure. Even I'm really bad at managing my time, but it's properly priority. While I was building all these side projects, right, I was very persistent about I want to build something for sure, right. I had that idea in mind. I want to have a product of my own, like a micro SaaS, and I went ahead with it. I made sure I managed my time in such a way that I finish whatever the day work that I have till maybe or evening or something, and spend rest of my time maybe a couple of hours late night or the evening. The entire evening goes into side projects. But I somehow make sure that I spend at least 2 to 3 hours every day for side projects, where I spend maybe thinking about it, maybe documenting, maybe figuring out what no code tools, all that. But
Right.
it totally depends.
How in a typical, let's say, organization, there are a lot of our accountability partners. So there are product managers, there are founders, there are engineers who help us keep accountable because we are a blocker for somebody else, right? Somebody else is a blocker for us, and that pushes us
For
to
sure.
do things. And we have this roadmap planning and etc. and all of it. When it
Yeah.
comes to side projects, we are our own sort of devil and
True.
angel. One day we feel lazy, then we don't feel like doing.
That is
There are so many numerous times like I've created like great Notion docs, great planning, but none of it is executed, right?
correct.
Now, when you are doing side projects, do you have a rough, even if not like a very concrete roadmap planning, but do you have a timeline as when should I launch? What are the milestones, sort of a thing?
Right. So that's what, right. Initially, I was saying never build anything in solo because it's like a very lonely job. So I think after joining Build, I figured out that at some point you would need a bunch of folks, at least similar minded folks within every time that who just come up. When you come up with an idea, there should be some set of people who would be interested in taking that up, building together, all that. So I think this can be achieved by joining communities like this. For example, Build. So you join community. The main reason you should join a CBC to make friends, right? It's not really about the site, even the shipping side project also. It's about making new friends, connecting with similar minded people. By end of the cohort, if you can make at least like 10 set of friends that you can stick to at long term with a similar mindset who would be interested in whatever that you do, or maybe people that you can quickly collaborate with. Let's say I have an idea and I do design and you do code. I can simply reach out to you, say, hey Dharmesh, let's build this together. And if you are with the same energy, it just becomes so easy and we can be accountable to each other.
Right.
So I would say join communities, make friends, and collaborate and build.
Nice. We have one more question. Can you please tell us where we could find these communities? Damodar has asked.
For sure. So I think, like personal bias, I would suggest build for sure. But even if not build, I think there are a lot of communities, right? If it completely depends on what exactly you want to build. Let's say you want to build a Web3 side project, for example. There are communities like Superteam DAO, which is by Tanmay Bhatt and all. But you can find these communities once you join at least one single community. Figure out that one community where you can actively participate, make friends, and then as you be in the game, right, people will keep you posted on what is happening in the space, what are the other communities that are there out there, and then you'll slowly figure out.
What are some of the other creators that you admire, like people who have launched side projects, some of them that you admire that you could share?
For sure. So I think the very one person intrigued me to build all side project was Abhinav, that runs 10K designers. So I still remember he launched a side project called UI Sources. It was basically a curated website of all these mobile design inspiration. So I wanted to build UI sources for ad creators. That was my very first thought that I had in mind. So Abhinav was one of the creators that inspired me, and there are other folks like KP who talks about building public, all these creators. Some of them.
Okay, so we're almost towards the end of the session. So I will complete by asking like one final question. For someone who's looking forward to start a side project, what are like the top 3 things that they should keep in mind?
To start a site, to build something out.
Yeah.
I would say this is our thing, right? Like start being active on like social media, like Twitter or Instagram, whatever it is. Start with something really small. Pick a personal pain point, be it a Notion, like just like how I went through on ideating ad sets. Pick a very small problem, build a very small landing page out of it. Talk about it publicly, saying that I am building this. That keeps you accountable, saying that I'm building this. Let me make sure that I do progress a bit. So whatever that you're building, just make a quick landing page out of no code, whatever. Put that out, actively keep talking about it, and then slowly figure out how to.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Akhil. Thanks a lot for
Awesome.
taking time and explaining us. I was really impressed. I didn't know so much thought has been gone through a project which looks at least very simple outside. And this goes back to the point saying that it takes a lot of pain to actually make look something simple.
Correct.
And I wish you all the best for all the
Awesome.
future side projects.
Thanks.
And I hope that one day you launch like a side project factory where people keep
Factory,
shipping.
okay. Awesome.
Right.
Thanks a lot, Dhanush. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah.